Creating happiness. Flattery gets you everywhere. We all like to hear ourselves praised, but unfortunately most of the time we only hear about our faults. That's fair, I suppose, because most of the time we only speak about someone else's faults. We hardly ever speak praise. Try listening to yourself speaking. Without praise, without positive reinforcement of good qualities, those qualities wither and die. But a little bit of praise is a grandstand of encouragement. We all want to hear ourselves praised. We just want to be sure about what we have to do to hear it. I once read in a magazine about a therapy group that used positive reinforcement for young children who had a rare eating disorder. Whenever these children ate solid food, they would vomit it up almost immediately. When any child managed to keep a morsel of food down for a minute or more, the group would throw a party. The parents would put on paper hats and stand on the chairs, shouting and clapping. The nurses would dance and throw coloured streamers. Someone would play the children's favourite music. There was suddenly a huge celebration, with the child who had kept their food down at the centre of it all. The children began to keep their food down longer and longer. The sheer delight at being the cause of such happiness rewired their nervous systems. Those children wanted praise that much. So do we. Whoever said flattery gets one nowhere was but I guess we should forgive them. Flattery, my friend, gets one everywhere. How to be a VIP. In the first year of our monastery, I had to learn how to build. The first major structure was a 6-toilet and 6-shower ablution block, so I had to learn all about plumbing. In order to learn, I took the plans to a plumbing shop, laid the plans on the counter and said, "Help." It was quite a large order, so the man at the counter, Fred, didn't mind spending a little extra time explaining what parts were needed, why they were needed, and how to glue it all together. Eventually, with a lot of patience, common sense, and advice from Fred, the wastewater plumbing was all finished. Our local council's health inspector came, gave it a stringent testing, and it passed. I was thrilled. A few days later, the bill arrived for the plumbing parts. I asked for a cheque from our treasurer and sent it off with a letter of thanks, especially to Fred for helping us start our monastery. I did not realise at the time that such a big plumbing firm with many branches around Perth had a separate accounts department. My letter was opened and read by a clerk in that section, who was so stunned at receiving a letter of praise that they took it immediately to the manager of accounts. Usually, when accounts receives a letter along with a cheque, it is a complaint. The head of the accounts department was also taken aback, and took my letter straight to the managing director of the whole company. The MD read the letter and was so pleased that he picked up the phone on his desk, rang Fred at the sales counter of one of their many branches, and told him about my letter on his mahogany desk. "This is just the sort of thing we're looking for in our company, Fred. Customer relations, that's the way ahead." "Yes, sir. You've done an excellent job, Fred." "Yes, sir. I wish we had more employees like you." "Yes, sir." "What salary are you on?" "Perhaps we can do better." "Yes, sir." "Well done, Fred." "Thank you, sir." As it happened, I went into the plumbing shop an hour or two later to change a part for another job. There were 2 big Aussie plumbers with shoulders as wide as septic tanks waiting for service ahead of me. But Fred saw me. "Brahm," he said with a big smile. "Come here." I was given VIP treatment. I was taken around the back, where customers were not supposed to go, to choose the replacement part that I needed. Fred's mate at the counter told me about the recent phone call from the managing director. I found the part that I needed. It was bigger and much more expensive than the part I was giving back. "How much do we owe you?" I asked. "What's the difference?" With a smile from ear to ear, Fred replied, "Brahm, for you, there's no difference." So praise makes good financial sense as well. The two-finger smile. Praise saves us money, enriches our relationships, and creates happiness. We need to spread more of it around. The hardest person to give any praise to is ourself. I was brought up to believe that someone who praises themselves becomes big-headed. That's not so. They become big-hearted. Praising our good qualities to ourselves is positively encouraging them. When I was a student, my first meditation teacher gave me some practical advice. He began by asking me the first thing I did after getting up in the morning. "I go to the bathroom," I said. "Is there a mirror in your bathroom?" he inquired. "Of course." "Good," he said. "Now every morning, even before you brush your teeth, I want you to look in that mirror and smile at yourself." "Sir," I began to protest. "I'm a student. Sometimes I go to bed very late and get up in the morning not feeling my best. Some mornings I would be frightened to look at myself in the mirror, let alone smile." He chuckled, looked me in the eye and said, "If you cannot manage a natural smile, then take your 2 index fingers, place one on each corner of your mouth and push up, like this." And he showed me. He looked ridiculous. I giggled. He ordered me to try it. So I did. The very next morning I dragged myself out of bed and staggered to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. Ugh! It was not a pretty sight. A natural smile wasn't a goer. So I got out my 2 index fingers, placed one on each corner of my mouth, and pushed up. I then saw this stupid young student making a silly face in the mirror, and I couldn't help grinning. Once there was a natural smile, I